I think there's a medium that you can develop between that kind of anger and that kind of, I guess you could say, Viktor Frankl meaning. It's kind of like that reserved competitiveness. I think I was benching with one of the coaches at PSW, and I was thinking about his perspective because he only knows me as like a nice, chill, funny guy. But like I don't bring out that douchebag mindset often at all. He was spotting me for like my cluster on bench. I just channel that kind of energy, and I was pushing the bar up, and I'm like, "Don't touch that shit, motherfucker! Don't touch that shit!" But that's the mindset I gotta get in to push that weight. It's needed for times like that. I know that's not who I am. It's just that certain trait comes out during a specific time. But it's also when it's in that time, I'm kind of, I guess you could say, I'm feeling that, but I'm not that. So like for instance, when you're in golf or you're being competitive and other things, I think maybe you can feel angry in those moments and then channel it back towards the next stroke where, okay, this next hole or this next drill, I'm going to do it as good as I can, right? And so not letting that anger kind of trickle over and 100%. Even feeling angry when you for instance, hit a bad shot, because that's going to happen.
It's awful. The way I talk to myself is awful sometimes, actually. Here's the thing I've realized.
I know.
Here's the thing I've realized, though. And I don't even know why I'm smiling at this. It's funny because it's like stupid. It's funny because I know how wrong it is. And I know it shouldn't be this way. And I know my fear is irrational and not real. But for some reason, I'm so scared to let go of it. Because I feel like the harder I am on myself, and as sick as this sounds, I feel like the harder I am on me, the more I succeed. And I know those two things aren't equated. I know talking to myself in a shitty-ass way is not directly correlating to me winning or succeeding or making a lot of money or whatever.
You're just not going to be happy a lot of the time.
I know that. I'm just losing. Like, to me, the way that I look at it is like, if you talk to yourself horribly and you think that because you're so hard on yourself that you're succeeding, the reality is you would succeed anyways because that's your personality. Your personality isn't the way you talk to yourself. Your personality is how disciplined you are, how good you are to others, even though you're not so good to yourself. And so to me, the way that I look at it is like, you're just losing, flat out losing by talking to yourself so horribly on a day in, day out basis, even though you think it's bringing you success. The only reason why you're equating talking horribly to yourself to success is because the more you talk horribly to yourself, the harder you want to work to avoid that feeling. But you can just drop the feeling, and your personality and your discipline and your level of work ethic is going to pull you through. That's the way I look at it objectively. Okay. But subjectively, I'm not even there at all. I'm not even close.
So like that's the ideal. But.
Like the perfect example is golf. Like I go in and I get mad, and I think that if I don't get mad, I'm going to lose focus. Not true. I've had rounds where I'm not mad and I'm playing well. Even though I'll hit a shitty shot, and on occasion, I won't get mad. And I'll just be like, whatever. It's more times the opposite. But sometimes I'll hit it. What the fuck am I going with this? The more times I hit shitty shots, the worse I'll feel. But that's only because I'm talking to myself some fucking awful way. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not going to get to 0% to be like never upset when I'm trying to do something and can't do it and it happens over and over. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. But I don't need to talk to myself that way.
Yeah. No, you don't.
But there's something in my brain that equates me playing well. Because, like, when I go out, most of the times I win. Yeah. And it's, like, if I go play against Mike, I'm balling with him. Like, I'm playing well. But the reason, I subconsciously equate being so hard on myself and getting so angry when I fuck up that I'm like, that's what's going to get me better. Perfect example is on that second hole. I hit a pretty good shot. It didn't come off the club right. I hit a pretty good shot. That was probably my shot of the day. And I was upset about it, but I wasn't. It was almost like it felt like a facade. It almost felt like I was subconsciously intentionally doing that. Because I didn't consciously think, let me play angry at this. Like, I felt anger. Mm-hmm. But I think the reason why it was there is because if I do that when I hit somewhat okay shots, it'll make me better. It'll make me win. Yeah, I don't know. It's irrational. It's stupid. But, like, I don't know. Because you're not like that at all. Like, you get mad sometimes, but you go, okay. And then you move on. Yeah. Like, that's stoic. It's stoic as fuck. And I'm sitting here, like, fucking slamming my club on the ground. Because I fucking...
On the green. Oh, my God. You're like, I swear to God, if you motherfucking make this putt. I was so tempted to just... my tension off the green the other time, just so you're sanity. Like, if I made that putt, you would have offed yourself then and there. When we played $1 a hole.
Oh, at Westwoods. Oh my God, dude.
You had. I think you had.
That was the most mad I've ever been.
You had
around you.
Yeah. You had a 2-putt lead, I think, or a 2-stroke lead on me, like in that specific hole at that time, right? I think I was on pace to shoot like a 5 or a 6, and you were on pace to shoot like a birdie or like even a par, pretty much, right? And I think you missed a really like not easy putt. I think you did like your kind of your long putt, right? And then your follow-up putt you missed it, which you should have made. You're like, oh my God. And then you missed it, right? And then it was in the same position.
It was so
like,
far,
yeah, it's that uncomfortable distance. And so you're like, oh my God. And if I made that putt, we would have tied the hole.
That's right.
And you were like, I would have fucking killed myself. But yeah, anyways, shit was so funny. I was trying so hard not to laugh.
See, that right there, inherently, first thought, like I was paying attention to it. First thought I have when you say that is that's why I win. And then a part of me thinks there is a lot of truth to that. Yeah. But then the other part of me thinks,
but is
winning worth it?
Yeah, is winning worth it? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Damn it! Because like my logical stoic mind says no. It's you just give this meaning. You give winning meaning.
Yeah.
But I just so deeply don't want to let go of that. Like
you're very attached to winning.
So attached to it, and like
but it's also.
Damn it.
Well, it's so funny because I was talking to Tristan about this. It was when we went golfing with him, and he like I was telling him how like angry you get at golf and how like pissed you get, and he's like, "Dude, I used to be the same way." And he's like, he's torturing himself.
Yeah,
that's what my cousin said.
Oh
and,
yeah,
and
that's
like
true.
He's like it's his own downfall. You know, he's like because I used to get super pissed at myself and super angry that I wasn't living up to my potential and doing what I should have been doing or doing what I know I can do, and. He was just like, and then he just kind of realized, he's like, is this really worth it? And he's just like, no, it's not. Like, obviously he wants to be good, but is all this frustration, all this kind of anger, is it really needed? No, not at all.
And it's not serving you.
It's not serving you. And like, I think a lot of times, it's like, yes, winning matters, no doubt about it. But like, what about, is it worth the sacrifice of your own personal mental state or your own personal well-being? And most times, more often than not, even if you do win, I think it's case dependent on the kind of sport you're in or endeavor you're in. But most times it's not worth it, right? Because like that just kind of that's the kind of habitual kind of I guess you could say point that you start at when, for instance, you get angry at golf or you start to lose.
Right.
And there's a good benefit to it because, like you said, it like that kind of mental state when you get quote unquote angry at yourself, you can kind of channel that to help you get on a better track to, for instance, hitting the ball better, right? And so I how I like to compare this is like in powerlifting, right? Like when I'm I told you about like there was a couple weeks where I lost like all my strength, right? Like not like all my strength, but I was not pulling the numbers that I pulled, right? And in those moments, I was just like, what just happened? I was like, oh shit, man. Like, especially with the comp coming up, I'm like 6 weeks out and like, God, we're changing things up. And I'm just like, fuck. And, you know, Viktor Frankl, he's like what he believes the definition of meaning is it's setting a future goal, right? And then once you set that future goal, that's what gives you meaning, right? And so what gave me meaning in that kind of circumstance was knowing that, okay, yes, I fucked up here and I shit the bed on the SPD day and I literally went like 5 for 9 on all my lifts, right? Horrible day, my worst day of powerlifting ever. But I was like, okay, I'm going to make these proactive changes. I'm going to take steps to change the approach I'm taking now. And by comp day, I'm going to be a dangerous motherfucker, right? And what do you know? If I'm able to maintain my kind of, I guess you could say, workload, my kind of, I guess you could say, endurance between lifts, from going to squat to bench to deadlift, I know I'm going to be a dangerous motherfucker when it comes to lift day, right? And kind of to draw back on what we were talking about before, like when I was in that kind of state, at first, I was like a couple of days, I was just like, because obviously, you know, powerlifting's a huge part of my life, and it's just like I find I find a decent amount of my self-worth in that, especially when I'm not getting those lifts, right? So your self-worth is
feel the same way with soccer.
Yeah, soccer, golf, right? Some of your self-worth
Right.
is kind of entangled in those things. And obviously, ideally, you would want, because you would want to draw those things back, right, to be at 0%, right? But that's obviously not the ideal. But I think kind of like there's a medium that you can develop between that kind of anger and that kind of, I guess you could say, Viktor Frankl meaning, right? Where you kind of draw back, and it's kind of like, we talked about it a while ago, like that reserved competitiveness. Like I only bring out, I think I was benching with one of the coaches at PSW, and I was thinking about his perspective because he only knows me as like a nice, chill, funny guy, right? But like I don't bring out that douchebag mindset like often at all, right? But when I'm under the bar, right, he was spotting me for like my cluster on bench, and it was my second set, and I was like, it was RP 9.5 to 10, right? So like pretty much all out max,
right?
And I was on my second rep, and I was thinking about it in my head. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna like, I just channel that kind of energy, and I was pushing the bar up, and like, he's obviously not gonna touch the bar because he's like, he knows how to fucking spot. Like,
Shout out to Rachel.
Let's go, baby. And I'm like, don't touch that shit, motherfucker! Don't touch that shit! And like, I'm fucking pushing this weight. You know what I mean? But that's the mindset I gotta get in to push that weight, right? So it's needed for times like that, right? And I know that's not who I am. It's just that certain trait comes out during a specific time, right? But it's also when it's in that time, it's not to the extent where I'm kind of, I guess you could say I'm feeling that, but I'm not that, right? So like for instance, when you're in golf or you're being competitive and other things, I think maybe you can feel angry in those moments, right? And then channel it back towards the next stroke where, okay, this next hole or this next drill, I'm gonna do it as good as I can, right? And so not letting that anger kind of trickle over, and 100%. Even feeling angry when you for instance, hit a bad shot, because that's going to happen, right? You know,
the way Mike looks at it is he tells me to focus. So if I hit an awful shot, let's say I shank my drive off the tee, and I'm pissed, Mike doesn't tell me calm down. He doesn't tell me be peaceful. He doesn't tell me remember this is just a game. He says focus. Yeah. Because when I'm focused on my next shot, I can't focus on my previous shot. Yeah. And when you're focused on your next shot, you're at peace because you're focusing on the next shot. You're not feeling the anger from your last shot because you're present with that next ball. 100%. But it applies to everything in life. Yeah. It doesn't just apply to golf. Something sets you back. You have a shitty morning. Things don't work out. You had a bad interaction with somebody at work. You had a shitty day at work. Fresh start in the next hole. Yeah. Fresh start when you get home. Yeah. Fresh start when you see your husband or your wife. Make dinner better. But the reality is you can't until you decide to be present in that moment. Because once you're present in that moment, those feelings are in the past. They don't exist anymore. They only exist because you bring them with you. But bringing them with you is a choice. Now, when you were talking about all that, it reminded me of this. It was Naval Ravikant, the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking about, what he said was, you're a human being. You're a human being. So you're going to have a bunch of desires. But the only ones you should allow to bring negative emotions to you are one or maybe two that you want your life to be focused on at that time. Okay. So if it's for me and you, we might want to put our desire feelings, that negative feeling when we don't have what we want, into our business, but not into golf or soccer or side hobbies or playing video games. Yeah. Allow yourself to feel that dissonance for that desire on one or two things. And to me, that's what feels right. It feels like that's because there's a higher end to that. Yeah. So when you allow yourself to have that shitty competitive feeling of like, fuck, I didn't make the mark, that negative emotion is going to propel you forward. But if you do that with everything, like me, sick twisted, I'm going to be at soccer later tonight, and we're going to be playing, it's a fucking practice. There will be some sort of little side game that my coach makes a wrong call in, like, because he'll be refereeing it or whatever, and he won't give me the foul or something like that, and I'll get fucking angry. I shouldn't. I should get angry when we aren't meeting our whatever quotas we have for our business.
Be angry.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to say angry because I don't think you should ever get there, but like allow yourself to feel kind of shitty sometimes.
Yeah. Well, when you're in those, just like a little question, like when you say you get angry, like, do you externalize it?
No. Sometimes in sports, yeah. In business, no.
Yeah. Okay. But as soon as you step off the field, those obviously don't go away like that, but like you no longer
20 minutes.
Yeah. You no longer carry those with you.
I don't.
I don't. Yeah, because you're you're using it for a time that's needed.
Right. That's what I always tell people. Because after, like, a good example is a couple weeks ago, I had a game and we got fucking shit on. And after the game, my dad was there, my mom was there, and my friend's parents was there. And and I was so mad after the game. And I was like, what happened? We went to our game. We got shit on. We lost. The parents were there after the game. My parents were there who came to see me. And I was like, thanks for coming. I can't talk to you right now. Like, I just can't. Like, I appreciate that you drove out here to watch me play, but like, we just fucking lost. And I tried and I gave it my all and we fucking lost. Like, I need like 20, 30 minutes to calm down. That's it. And Alex, my best friend, understands that. So when we get in the car and we start driving, he's not, making jokes with me. He's not trying to talk to me. He's not trying to annoy me. He's just letting me be. And I just breathe for a little bit and I get over it and it's fine. But to me, with my personality, the way that I look at it is, in order for me to be competing at the highest level, as hard as I can, to give my 100%, that's what I have to risk if I lose. If I win, I won't feel that way. But again, should I be doing that for soccer? No, not at all. I think the philosophy is correct.
Because I feel like you could still give it your all and not feel those same consequences after the game. Because obviously it's the attachment to outcome. Mm-hmm. It's the desire to win or the desire to win. And obviously when you're so focused on the desire, it almost clouds your present judgment, right? Because that's all you're concerned about, right? Like, you're concerned about scoring, right? You're concerned about kind of that end goal, that you lose kind of where you're at presently, right? And you almost get, I'm not saying, like, I'm not trying to suggest anything here, I'm just kind of depicting what it is, right? Since you just get so sucked up in the goal, it's almost as though you, quote unquote, you lose your power to have control over your own internal response, right? And so through that, like, a lot of the times when, like, when you become anger or when you become like a negative emotion, it's going to take a lot of time, 20, 30 minutes, 2-3 weeks, 2-3 months, or 2-3 years even, to really let that emotion pass through you. As opposed to, let's just say you're competing, right? And you're still aware of the end goal. You're still able to give it your all, but you're still very conscious of your own state within you.
Do you think that your performance will stay the same if you distance yourself from those emotions?
I mean, I can only speak from my own personal experience, and I feel like based on, powerlifting, based on the different, I haven't played like a sport in like 4 years, so it's been a minute, but based on my own personal experience and, based on like me becoming the individual that I am within these past like 4 or 5 years, as compared to who I was back then, from personal experience, I feel like I can still be as strong as possible, especially because, and maybe I'm wrong about this, when you're present with yourself and you're aware of the end goal, you can really, in my opinion, you can channel those emotions even more towards your performance, right? So, for instance, for me, like when it comes to deadlifting or something like that, I'm like, usually it's like when I'm deadlifting, I get a little nervous, right? Like, because it's just like you're competing at that stage, you're doing something outside your comfort zone, but I channel all those emotions to be like, yeah, I'm going to fucking do this shit. This shit's going to be fucking sick, and I'm going to rip this weight, and it's going to look fucking awesome, right? And it's like, obviously, I just say all this stuff to myself, and like, you kind of pin yourself against whatever goal you're going against, and you're like, I'm going to do this, but you're very aware of it. And since you're aware of the goal, at least I feel, and you're not necessarily absorbed by the goal, you're able to kind of, quote unquote, control your response in a way that even if you don't, quote unquote, get that lift or you don't perform how you want to, you'll be able to still compete at your highest level through channeling those emotions. But if, let's just say, you don't get the lift, you'll be.
But do you feel happy? Do you feel happy when you do get the lift?
It depends. Because I think
if you try hard and you succeed,
usually,
are you going to be happy?
Like, I am very satisfied. Like after my lifts. Usually.
So then, how are you supposed to be at peace when you lose? Because to me, it's like you got to take the good with the bad. Because to me, the way that
I think, hold on, let me just. I agree with you that you you probably won't be as happy as if you were to get absorbed into that goal, right? Because if you get super invested and absorbed into that, right? If you win, you're going to be probably really happy. But if I draw back on that scale, right, and I'm not absorbed as the goal, that's not going to have the same effect on me because I'm not as absorbed in it, right? Because I'm very conscious of that. I'm not investing myself as much. Does that make sense or no?
Not really. Do you think that, because I think the concept I'm talking about is, if you ever are happy with an outcome, you are therefore attached to the outcome. And your attachment to the outcome is what causes you to feel shitty when you lose. So if you don't want to feel shitty when you lose at all, you have to detach yourself from the entire thing, which means you can't feel happy when you win.
Well, I mean, I think you feel... I think it's not like a this or that. It's not like you're going to be completely happy or you're going to be completely dissatisfied. So what I was trying to say there before was I don't attach myself as much to the goal, right? Therefore, I don't feel as shitty when I don't meet the goal.
Got it.
So it's on like a continuum. It's on a scale, right? So I'm still attached to the goal, no doubt about it, right? But I'm maintaining my, I guess you could say, my conscious ability to be aware of the outcome, right, and not get sucked into it. So like I still feel shitty when I hit a bad shot, right? But that's because I'm more attached to the outcome in that situation as opposed to powerlifting when I don't get a lift, for instance. I don't feel as shitty because I'm not as attached to that goal, right? So it's a balance of both extremes.
So do you look at it like pieces at the middle, happy, angry, right? Let's say you're powerlifting, for example.
Yeah.
And you hit your lifts or you don't, right? Yeah. So if this is the middle and this is happy, does your attachment move exactly in proportion?
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
Does your attachment to it move in proportion? So let's say this is middle. Yeah. You feel nothing. If you get your lift or you don't get your lift, you feel nothing. Doesn't matter. Complete detachment.
Indifferent, yeah.
Completely indifferent, dead zero. Yep. The more you care about it, do you think they move at the same rate? So you care a little bit. Therefore, if you succeed, you're this. Therefore, if you succeed, you're 5% happy, and if you lose, you're 5% sad.
But you feel more peace because
as you get more attached.
The less peace you feel.
The happier you feel when you win, but the worse you feel when you lose. Do you think that those are directly proportional?
I think it depends because like I mean I don't. It's kind of hard for me to like concretely say because I feel different in different scenarios. You know what I mean?
Right.
So based theoretically, yes, but.
Agreed. I just don't feel emotionally. That's how.
Yeah,
it works.
I
feel like you feel worse when you lose than happy when you win.
Okay. I get what you're saying for sure. Like I think, for sure. Because let's use a different example. Because like what's so interesting. Like I mean, because I mean, you probably felt this a lot. Like I got to a point in college where I would get A's like a lot, right? And so when I would get an A, quote unquote, which we could dive into this, whether you consider this winning or not, like that's a different story, right? So let's just say I considered getting an A winning, right? And I just get so used to winning, that's just what I expect, right? But when I would get like a B or like the very rare times I would get a B or something like that along those lines or a bad grade, I'd be like, fuck, dude, this shit sucks. Like, I wasn't actually acting that way, but I would feel that kind of negative feeling or, dissatisfied or inadequacy that you would still feel with sports, right? So I think because in that instance, they're not proportional, right? Because if I win, right, I get an A. Maybe it's a different example, right? If I get an A, right, it's just because it's habitual. I'm so used to it. It feels like nothing because I remember the first time I started to get A's in college, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Right.
But once you get used to that kind of feeling,
it's your standard.
Just standard, right? So I think it depends on the kind of quote unquote risk you're going for, versus kind of it's just winning. I think winning really, that happiness feeling really depends on what you expect, right? Because
that's called sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's called dopamine reward prediction error.
Yep, gotcha.
That's what it's called.
Okay.
And so when your baseline is set, I'm going to be this happy. Yep. When that dopamine comes in, if you're happier than that, then you feel happy because the anticipation of the reward is rewarding in and of itself. So if you know you're going to get ice cream, over half the dopamine you're going to feel is on your way to getting the ice cream, not just eating the ice cream. Yeah. There's more when you get it. Yeah. But when you're here and you get there and that ice cream shop is closed, you drop.
Yeah.
Because your dopamine was here because of the anticipation.
Yeah.
So then when you get there and they're open and they have your flavor that you want and you have this, dopamine. You go there, you're excited, you're ready for your chocolate chip cookie dough, and they don't have it. What do you feel? You don't feel good anymore because you drop. Because dopamine is only relative to where it was before. That's why heroin stays so addicting. Because you don't take heroin, and then the second you have the come down, you're back at baseline. You drop below baseline. The reason you drop below is because your body says, okay, we're getting all this dopamine, right? This is where our new home is. This is our new standard. Okay. And so you need more and more and more heroin or fentanyl or scrolling on TikTok or food in your stomach or whatever it is to meet that baseline because it only raises and raises and raises. You need a long couple of months before you reset yourself back to baseline. That's just dopamine. That's a law of nature. That applies to everything. Standards always get raised, but they're called standards for a reason. And so once you're on that spot, you kind of fucked for a little bit. But that's why I think it's so important to detach. They talked about the whole why second place feels worse than third place. And it's because your perspective on the goal is what matters. Yep. Because when you take measurements of the amount of dopamine that those participants are feeling, first place feels the most, but third place feels more than second place. Because it's not based on where you are and where the chips fall. It's based on what your expectations were beforehand. Yeah, 100%. Because second place now has a perspective of, I was this close to first place. Third place typically has a perspective of, I'm just glad to be on the fucking podium. We did it. No. We made third. So it's really just based on your perspective. Yeah. I don't know where that even started, but
no, 100%. I agree with you, and that makes total sense. Like, I'm glad we broke that down a little bit more because they're definitely not proportional. And what I was thinking about when you brought up the whole heroin example is we should go and try it and actually see for ourselves.
Black tar.
Anyways, so when you brought up the heroin example, versus kind of like, for instance, golf or powerlifting or soccer or something like that, our perspective in those moments, I guess you could say, here's a better thing. Our expectations in those kind of quote unquote environments for golf, powerlifting, sports, or whatever endeavor you're going into, we can control, right? But when you take something like heroin, and so in those instances where we can control, I thought I saw like a text down there. I was like, oh. In those instances where we can control our expectations, right, there's a lot less of a recovery time when those quote-unquote expectations aren't met, or we lower our expectations, or we shift them, or we change our perspective, and then that, as a byproduct, changes our expectations, right? But when we take drugs, for instance, like heroin or fentanyl, and we naturally mess with our biology through the different chemicals and things like that are in that substance, that raises and kind of staples in our, I guess you could say, expectation level even more, right? So for someone that, and what I was thinking about, like the between that distinction, someone like for you, right? So when it comes to golfing, right? So your quote unquote expectation and standard level is, obviously you're not taking drugs right now, but like on a kind of, what I was thinking about was, I was like, okay, how do expectations become stapled in over time and time again?
Right.
You continue to do them, right? And they just get more and more, I guess you could say, solidified into who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
And so for you to change your expectations, for you to, I guess you could say, change your standard to that kind of more even point where you don't feel as much negativity when you, for instance, hit a bad shot.
Right.
It's going to take you, just like that drug addict, right? Maybe not to the same degree or in the same way,
it's the same
but
philosophy.
It's going to take a long time, and you're still going to feel those same, I guess you could say, inklings of when you're like, you hit a bad shot, you feel that anger, and you want to get really angry, right? Because that's what you've always done. But you have to consciously remind yourself, no, this is the new expectation. For instance, like, no, we're going to accept this. Yeah, it was a bad shot. Let's move on. Or something along those lines, right? And so, I mean, I think I think a lot of people can definitely want to get to that baseline, but overcoming what they're so used to is very hard for them.
Right.
And so I think I think when it comes to a lot of things, just, different from what we're talking about when it comes to like shifting your habits, or it comes to shifting your expectations when it comes to outcomes with the person that you love or person that you want to be with, or kind of what you want out of life. I think kind of, for instance, like if you're in a scenario where you have the expectation that you're going to get like a 9-to-5 job, but then someone like Jason comes in and is like, no, let's start our own business, become millionaires. For you to make that shift and change your expectation based on what mommy and daddy and your whole family and society and civilization has told you is going to take a long
it's
fucking
so hard
time. And that just draws me back into like, I just kind of realize this now. It's like, dude, we're at such a point where we're on that other flip side of the coin that I just kind of said. And it's like, wow, dude, we have changed our expectations.
Right.
Really of what we quote unquote want out of life.
Yeah. And
we're not on that other side of the coin where we have to come down from those expectations and see kind of like the physical results in order to confirm us changing our beliefs. And so I think that's just really interesting.
100%. Dude, the hardest part in starting a business is starting, because it takes all this mental effort to go on this journey just to get over the fact that you're scared of what mom's going to say, or you're scared of what society's going to say to you if you fail. You're crispy. Fuck, dude. 137 pounds. That's crazy. I'm like a fucking
change your expectations, dude.
I should be 120 pounds. Yay, I'm happy. I'm literally like fucking.
You look the same as you've always had.
I know. I just look in better shape. That's really it. I just look more fit.
You look better, and you're probably a lot healthier.
Definitely. Oh, for sure.
Dude, my fucking fat arms. They're really big.
My fucking heart rate is too low.
It's not a healthy rate.
I feel like I have the old people. I have the body that old people desire, not that young people desire. And it's maturing that will make me love my body more than most others.
100%. Yeah.
But right now, you're a young dude, and you're looking at like, and also fucking PSA to all the skinny dudes out there. Listen, it's a mindset shift. It's not a workout harder shift. It's not a eat more shift. It's a, are you fucking healthy or not? Because maturing in the gym is realizing you don't care about the size of your muscles. You care about how healthy you are.
Yeah, 100%.
Your muscle size is an inclination and is directly correlated with it. But if you don't look like fucking Chris Bumstead, that doesn't mean you're out of shape. If your heart rate's in the low 40s when you wake up in the morning, you're in good fucking shape. If your body fat is where it should be, you're in good shape.
Yeah.
If you can run a couple miles and not fucking feel like you're dying, you're in good shape. Yeah. If you can lift the weights, you're also in good shape. Strength is a huge part of it. But motherfucker, if your
heart's more important.
Your heart is so much more important.
But that's why I don't like. That's the one caveat with powerlifting. Like,
right?
Because now I'm at like I have a rule. I'm not going past 182. Like weight wise. Like this is. If Mikey's like, all right, move up a weight class. No. Right. Like this is it. I don't even like putting on this size, but I know it's necessary in order to get the strength that I want to get.
Right.
But every single time that I'm lifting. Right. Like, because I would love to be doing cardio while I'm doing powerlifting, but my body just can't handle it. Like,
you should.
Intense cardio. Like, I can definitely.
Vice versa, I shouldn't be doing intense powerlifting
like,
when I'm balling.
They don't complement each other.
They just don't. It's just bad. It's not good.
But like you said, it's like what's most important. It's like, bro, you hitting your macros, dog. Like, I just care if I'm eating food that's healthy and that I enjoy. Right. And it's like, because you'll feel. If you're powerlifting or you're doing soccer, right? Like, or you're doing more cardio, you'll feel that kind of like, because I know you feel, you feel like you're kind of missing that strength aspect right now, right? And I kind of feel that I'm missing that cardio aspect, right? So it's like
perspective is a choice. Period.
Yeah, but like either way, like if you objectively look at it, we're probably fine when it comes to both,
right?
Like you're probably like injuries aside, like you're probably more than enough strong, and like my cardio is probably. More than okay. You know what I mean? Even though we should probably do both.
Right.
You know, so.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
It's really just my conditioning. That's all it was. My friends were lifting super heavy. Yeah. They were putting on a lot of size. And it took couple years before I went to the park with them and started playing basketball with them and realized that they couldn't run for more than 5 minutes, for me to no longer be jealous of their big biceps.
Yeah.
I stopped giving a fuck when I realized that none of them have body fat below 20% and none of them have a resting heart rate that's even close to the 60s. It's like, that's not great. That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like, okay, what do I really care about?
Yeah.
You look at the longevity of yourself, you're only going to care about having big muscles for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, power lifters and bodybuilders aside, which is far and few. If you look at all the people that go to the gym, most people are just going to the gym to be healthy.
Yeah.
It's not the big muscles.
Yeah.
It's feeling good on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. 100%.
And so to me, that's the one thing it took me so long to realize that. And then I'm at that point, and it's still a thing where I'll look in the camera and be like, look how skinny my arms are.
And 5 minutes ago.
and think that I'm out of shape as a result of that. When in reality, it's like, no.
You're actually very healthy.
You're actually very healthy.
Like, you're more healthy than Chris Bumstead. Think about that. Yeah.
You think so?
Yes.
Why? Because of the PEDs?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know much about PEDs.
Well, considering he also is, the PEDs, let alone, and the amount of freaking, I mean, like, he's probably fine. Like, he does his blood work and he cares a lot, but the PED abuse and the bulking and cutting and all that, like, if you look at anybody on stage, and this is a common misinterpretation, a lot of people, like, for people that have no idea, they'll compare, like, me and you to someone on stage, like, oh, who's more healthy? They'll say the guy that's fucking 4% body fat.
That I know.
No. Actually, their body doesn't want to be like that.
Not at all. And it stays like that for about 2 days.
Yeah, exactly.
They're so dehydrated. They're so malnourished. And
that's why, like, if you're
Chris Bumstead eats 1,500 calories a day when his week up to his fucking meet. 1,500 a day.
He's like a 6'3" behemoth.
250 behemoth. 1,500 a day.
Yeah, it's nuts.
The average Joe should be eating 2,000 if they're not working out. This motherfucker's lifting like crazy, burning so many calories. His deficit's probably like 3,000 at least.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. And he's also doing like a ton of cardio on that
4,000.
too.
Yeah.
But you're healthier, more healthy than almost every bodybuilder, right? And it's like, even, I mean, that's why I say, like, to like when I go to the gym with my mom and she's like, I think we'll, like, I don't even know if we're comparing workouts or we're just like saying whatever. I'm just like, she'll do the Stairmaster for 40 minutes and I'll lift for like an hour or whatever. And then we'll leave together, right? And I'm just like, Mom, you did way more of a workout than I did, right? Like, you did way more in health wise, right? Like, you burned way more calories, even though I'm lifting weights. A lot of times people have a common interpretation that that's a better thing. Yeah, like, no, what you did was way more beneficial. I probably burned like 100 to possibly 150 calories lifting, if that. But you moving your body and kind of continuously having your heart rate go up and down or whatever, you know, for a significant period of time is way more beneficial than, for instance,
for long-term health.
Yeah, for long-term health. Even though, you know, weightlifting has been shown.
That's why I think it's what are your goals? Yeah. If you are and you're powerlifting and you have a meet in August, you shouldn't be running like as hard as I am.
Yeah.
That would be the dumbest thing you ever did. You would be burning so many unnecessary calories. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Why would you do that? No reason.
Yeah.
Just like there's no reason for me to put the stress on my body when I have to run miles and miles and miles later on in the day. It's like, that's...
What?
Huh? Well, just keep squatting.
Deadlift as heavy as possible.
Every day. Because if you went on my cardio workouts that I did on a weekly basis, and I went on your powerlifting, I wouldn't survive. What? But, yeah. Comparison is the thief of joy. It's really that simple. 100%, yeah. And the reason why, and here again, looping it back to where we started.
Yeah.
If for some that's you're laughing.
Oh, no, I'm good, yeah.
If you're not feeling good about yourself, if you feel inadequate, it's because you are subject, like everybody else is, to your unlimited desires. And the way to fulfill those desires is not to achieve all those goals because there's unlimited desires. The real goal is to get rid of your desires and detach yourself from the outcome.
Yep.
It's really that simple.
Yeah.
The reason why you feel inadequate is because you have unlimited desires. You're a human being. You should have unlimited desires. But it's a disease.
Yeah.
Because all that is you feeling inadequate about all these things. Yeah. And the list is actually infinite. Yeah. It's endless.
Yeah.
So the key to no longer feeling shitty when you're inadequate is to drop your desires. Focus on a couple things, maybe 1 or 2 things that you can actually go towards that you're going to feel shitty about when you miss the mark, but drop everything else. Yeah. And it's weird. God, the universe, is wired in a way where when you kind of just have 1 or 2 things that you're super focused on, things start to work out in those areas. When you stop caring so much about all these endless desires that aren't actually serving you and your higher purpose and what you feel pulled towards, once you drop those desires, all of a sudden you're focused. And you allow those 1 or 2 core areas to thrive because that's where your focus is, that's where your energy is, that's where your emotion is, and it gets pulled to you. But that only comes from dropping out all the other things that you know you don't need, whether it's golf or soccer or playing video games or whatever it is. Drop it. Stop having so many desires in those areas. It's not that you can enjoy them and use them for what they are, which is fun, habits, side hobbies, whatever. But once you drop those desires, then you can focus on the things that really matter to you, whatever that is for you.
It's a common question that I've kind of pondered. Not recently, but it's something I've definitely thought of, and it's the example that you brought up. It's because as you say, we have unlimited desires, right?
Yep.
Because to me, like obviously we want more, and whether that's based on you comparing others or like you're, for instance, in a kind of endeavor where let's just say you're playing a game and you want to get really good at it. It's like, but also do you really need to get good at it? And like why you're doing that's another story. But like those 2 examples, for instance, comparing yourself, wanting a lavish life like the 1%, or kind of wanting to get really good at something. And then you kind of contrast that with the 1 or 2 things that you're really good at in your life, or 1 or 2 quote unquote desires that you really decided to pursue. So for instance, videography for us in our self-improvement kind of channels, right? We'll use those 2 examples. And then maybe golf, soccer, powerlifting aside, right? Like those are our main kind of sub-passions, right? I just, not the sub-passion speaking, but the layer below that of like, having all these desires, right? My gut tells me that those aren't even desires. Those are kind of, I mean, they're valued things that we think we want, but we don't actually want. And so we think we want them, right? And all it is just a belief, right? It's not things we actually want. It's things we think we want, right? What we actually want is those 2 or 3 kind of main areas that have become our lifestyle, right? And so it really comes back down to the mental state or perspective or whatever that you're in, right? Because if you can kind of be the understanding and have that bird's eye kind of perspective where you can see the distinction and kind of have that bird's eye perspective when it comes to those 2 different things, I think you will not get caught in the kind of mental trap of believing in the lavish life or believing in kind of wanting to get good at these other things. And then you'll, in a way, kind of quote unquote, detach yourself from what you think you want. And then you'll begin to pursue what you actually want
100%.
Because you have a more clear understanding of what you actually want. And you're not going to be chasing them, but you're going to kind of let them flow through you in a way where, yes, you still want them, but it's not coming from a state of lack, but it's coming from a state of authenticity. And so, like you said, you'll begin to see more results because you're pursuing what you love. And there's not that, there is a gap, right, from where you are in the standard, but you're pursuing it from a place of like quote unquote wholeness, from a place of quote unquote completeness, and you're not pursuing it from a place of kind of I'm inadequate, I am not whole, and on that basis you'll just really quote, like I said before, have that mental clarity, have that true understanding of what you quote unquote really want, even though it's not even what you want, it's just what you do.
Literally.
And a lot of times all those other sub desires and what other wants and haves and must haves just kind of fall away, and you don't, depending on where your focus is, you don't want them at all.
That's it. That's it, bro.
Cool.
Good shit, bro.
I mean,